Welcome to the Legalpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Sager, founder and CEO of Legalpreneur Inc. As a serial entrepreneur and someone that works exclusively with small business owners legally protecting their business, I'm dedicated to covering common legal issues faced by business owners, providing you with the business knowledge you need to catapult your business's growth and showing you just how some of the world's most elite entrepreneurs have handled these legal and business issues themselves. In true attorney fashion, the information in this episode is not legal advice. This is for informational purposes only, and you should always consult with your attorney before implementing any of the information in the show. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Legalpreneur podcast. You guys are in for a treat today because I am joined by Whitney Lee. She is the owner of Sociallee PR and Digital Media, who is taking the entire hospitality industry by storm, offering her services. And I'm so excited for you guys to hear from her because she has a beautiful spin on the PR stuff and how it actually applies to you as a small business owner. And she's going to actually give us some really good tips on how to use PR to help us, especially when we're in some tough situations. I know I've had clients where it's like, oh, well, legally, yeah, possibly we can do something, but it may cost a lot of money. So then it's like, okay, maybe we should go the PR route and see if we can get, the public opinion on board. So excited to hear from Whitney today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Andrea. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so pumped. I am so excited for the listeners to hear. And I know that you are absolutely killing it in business right now and getting so many new clients. And you guys, she is starting a podcast. It's launching this week. So go check it out, Sociallee Relevant. But first, you're going to get a taste of what you're going to hear on her podcast. So Whitney, please give everybody the rundown. How did you get to where you are today, killing it in PR?
Oh, thank you. Okay, so quick background. I grew up in South Mississippi and we always vacationed in a little town called Destin, Florida. It's in the panhandle of Florida. Not everyone always says, "Are you near Miami?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not anywhere near." We're on the opposite end. So I moved to a little beach town called Destin, Florida. And I thought I was just going to hang out here and get a tan after undergrad. But I ended up doing a master's at Florida State and kept moving back to the area. It's a massive area for tourism. And so I got my first job out of grad school at a big hotel. And then I eventually moved on and became the director of marketing for a massive Hilton property here in the area. I never had this big dream of like, I want to start my own business. But I quickly realized in the corporate world that was just like not my thing. I was in my desk every day from 8 to 5 by myself in a room about the size of a closet, no windows, no one to talk to, just really flying solo every day. And for marketing and PR people, that's like we're extroverts. Like we want to be talking to people. So I had this vision of like I could go out and I could do this job from anywhere. This was 2013. So I started consulting and taking on like side freelance projects and officially announced the business in 2015. So we started Sociallee PR and Digital Media, and now we are a team of 5. So still a little boutique agency, but we represent clients. Our bread and butter is definitely hospitality. I know a lot of people in the hotel, resorts, spas, that world. But we've also worked on a lot of other cool projects, food and beverage, retail, even some nonprofit work as well. So we work with clients all over the nation. We have some Florida clients, but we're kind of all over the map. Jersey, Phoenix, so a little bit of everything.
So what are some of the services that you actually provide these clients?
Great question, because every agency is so different. So what we are best at, obviously from our name, Sociallee, we do a lot of social media. So we do the organic content, but we also really crush social media ads. We do a lot of email marketing with all the funnels. We also do a lot of influencer work, coordinating influencers to partner with businesses and really making sure that it leads back to sales. It's not just about let's get some cute pictures on Instagram. Like, how is this increasing our bottom line for our clients? And then we do a lot of blog writing for some organic SEO. And then, of course, PR. PR is a big part of what we do. And, a lot of people don't really know what PR is, and it's such a broad area. So PR can be anything from collaborations of like finding a nonprofit that your business is passionate about, and how do you create a partnership with them to help your customers and clients know kind of what the heart of your business is. So that's an aspect of PR, but PR can also be like reputation management
Mhm.
when something goes wrong, or and I know we'll talk more about that, but a big part of PR is reputation management, and also like pitching big media outlets to try to get stories and coverage on your business. So PR is such a broad topic, but those are the areas that we really do best.
And so let's talk about brand management. So, or brand reputation. How exactly, what would you say are the most relevant times that a brand needs to be worried and bring in a PR agency? Because I've worked with clients, one matter in particular that comes up, it was like a local matter in a small town in Texas, and there was just a lot of beef, and the client was going to have to spend a lot of money to sue, but she had a very, very big name for herself there where she was, and the other guy really just, he was kinda known as a piece of shit, and it's like, "Look, honey, I think your best option now is to just go talk to a PR agency and see how you can spin this in, the public eye." So what's your take on that? When should they bring somebody in?
Totally. I think, we do have people that'll come to us when the tragedy has already happened. And those are always more difficult times to manage because you got to be on top of it. So for us as PR professionals, in order to speak for you, it's very similar to like an attorney's work in regards to like if we're going to be able to speak for you, we have to know the whole backstory. We have to
Mhm.
know your business. We have to know who you are. We have to know what happened. We can't, it's like being a doctor. I can't just prescribe medicine if I don't know what your symptoms are, if I don't know your medical history. So if businesses are waiting until something bad happens, they're definitely behind the ball. So I always encourage people, I'm like, be proactive with your reputation. It shouldn't just be about managing it if something bad happens. What do you believe in? What do you want people to think about you when they think of you or your business? And even for like the CEOs of businesses, I mean, God, look at Elon Musk, Steve
Mhm.
Jobs. Like now, there's so much public eye on the CEOs, and our society demands these people. That they've got a magnifying glass on them for who they are and what they stand for personally. So it's like you really got to get ahead of that and decide, who are you? What do you want to be known for? And what do you want people to think about you when they hear your name? So then we get creative and say, like, okay, so if you want to be known as compassionate, or if you want to be known as, investing in the future of women, then what things can we get involved in now to get that word out to your people or into the world in general? So then when something bad does happen, you have that to fall back on to be like, no, 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 this is who we are.
Yeah.
We support women-owned businesses, or we support LGBTQ, or whatever the cause is that you wanna be known for. If you've been doing the proactive work, I promise when the tragedy happens, it's so much easier to manage. So much easier.
That makes so much sense, and I never ever even thought about it that way. I'm so glad we're touching on this. And it's just like the legal stuff. Like if you're proactive, it can save you so much time, so much money, so many headaches, and that's because you're getting ahead of it. And I've never even thought about PR being like that. I mean, I've hired a PR agency before to help pitch and get me out there, and they did a great job. So the audience here is a lot of really small business owners, maybe making six figures. So, some are less than six figures, some are, seven figures. But when would you say is the right time to really bring in a PR team, whether it's just for pitching or for brand reputation management? What's your take on that?
I would say start small, like I said, like being proactive with something. And, sometimes I'll be honest, like you don't always have to have an agency to help you. Like if in your heart, like I'm really passionate about animals, then reach out, like do a little research. Google is a beautiful thing, people. Like Google, local animal rescues or and reach out to them and say, how can we help? How can we partner with each other? So sometimes you don't even have to have a PR agency. You can just integrate things, into your business that show people what you're about. One of our nonprofit clients is a domestic violence center, and the color that every cause has a color, right? Breast cancer is pink, and domestic violence is purple. So this salon owner felt so passionate about domestic violence and wanted to help that center. She would put streaks in people's hair, like underneath or on top, like a purple streak in your hair. And it was free if you made a donation to support that cause. And so then you all of a sudden, all these people around town had these purple streaks in their hair, and everyone's like, what is the deal with the purple streak? Like, what is this all about? So it was a really cool awareness campaign. Also brought a lot of new people into her salon because they were like, I need one of those purple streaks like everyone else. It got foot traffic in the store. It got awareness out about the organization, and it drove some donations for them. So like, boom, perfect example of like that purple hair dye probably cost her nothing, And to put a little tiny streak in her hair really probably cost her nothing, but look at all the results. And the most valuable thing out of it all, like, yeah, it's nice getting new people in your store or in your salon, but like, look at what that showed the community. It showed the community that she cared about that. And I think that just speaks volumes about who you are.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that made such an impact on so many different levels. And when you bring that awareness, you never know who's watching, whether, maybe it was somebody that was a victim of domestic abuse and finally saw how many people were actually rallying to support it, and maybe that helped them get out of a situation or come forward. And that's so cute. That's so beautiful. Oh, it gives me
I
goosebumps
love
about
stuff
it.
like that. Yeah. I love that, and it was just something like she didn't even have, like, a motive in mind of, like, "I'm gonna make a bunch of money off this," or, "I'm gonna get new clients." She just wanted to help,
Yeah.
and so I
Oh my
just thought that was such an amazing example, and she came up with that was, like, not agency-led or anything, like, she came up with that on her own.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. See, I don't know if we can touch on this, but do you have, without like giving too many details away, because I kind of like to get in the juicy gossip, but do you have any like crazy stories that you can tell? Like, oh, we had to actually get ahead of this tragedy that happened, and without obviously not breaking any confidentiality or anything.
Yes. We had a client once, I don't know why, but, he said a slur on social media, and it was not okay. Like, he made a comment on a post, and he didn't think anyone was gonna see it, but he called someone a name, a completely inappropriate name. And this was, like, on a national Facebook account, and so I guess he just thought, like, nobody in our little town follows that page or cares, no one's gonna see that comment, but he made a pretty nasty comment, and it caused the shitstorm of the century.
Oh no.
Yeah, he people screenshot it, even after he deleted it, it was too late, they had screenshot it, and then they went to his page and, like, scrolled through every single photo of even though he had his profile blocked, he had something in one of his profile photos that gave away that he owned a business. And so
Oh
they
no.
dug through his profile, found his business, and I'm talking like hundreds of people went and started bashing him online and went to his Google page and spent hundreds of reviews about this person is a bigot, they are da 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 da. I mean, just went on and on and on. Then his employees started getting a hold of it and some past employees that started chiming in of like, "Yes, I agree. I used to work for this person."
No.
Yes, and then it was like a massive avalanche of anyone that he had ever crossed. They all united together, and it was a bad situation. He had employees quit, and I don't know about y'all, but the hiring crisis right now is real.
Yes.
So, you gotta hang on to every employee you have unless they're, like, really doing something awful. So he had employees quit. It was a nightmare. And at that point in my world, like, I didn't have a whole lot of options. What do? You
Yeah.
can't say, "No, he didn't say that." There's screenshots. You can't say like, "Well, he didn't mean it that way. What he actually meant." No, 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 like, he typed it. He wrote that, and it went on for a good 3 months.
Oh my
And
god.
so you have the option of, like, do you take down their whole Facebook page? Like, but then they'll come after you other ways. Like, you can run, but you can't hide. It went pretty wild for a while.
So is there anything you could even do?
Pretty much, I tried to piece together the most eloquently written statement that I could make. At that point, you just have to apologize. You can't there's no way to spin of, like, "I meant something else, I didn't say that." There's no options at that point. You just have to admit you're wrong, apologize, and commit to do better. The client did not like the statement that I wrote, and it was not put out there.
Wow, so he just didn't do anything publicly then?
He chose to do nothing. His comment back was that he chose to do nothing because he felt like cancel culture is wrong, but also, like, the amount of people he offended, people that were very close to him, employees, like, longtime clients of his, like, you gotta say something.
So I despise cancel culture because I've seen so many times, like, something get misconstrued, and then somebody runs with it, or they only hear one side of the story, and then it's impossible for the other party to even say their side. So that's really what I hate about it. But when somebody does something that's clearly wrong, then not saying like cancel culture should come and ruin their lives, but they need to pay for, like, there's consequences to their actions.
Mhm.
So I deal with it all the time with clients. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe you don't, like, legally you don't have to give a refund, but, and yeah, it's a free country, you can say whatever you want, but do you want the rest of the world coming after you, or your clients firing you, employees quitting for whatever you did, or for not giving a refund, and then the client goes and spins their own story about why they wanted a refund and why you wouldn't give, like, oh, I've seen it all.
It it was very, very intense, but I will say this, I do think it affected his business for several months, and a lot of people don't know this, but, like, we actually work with attorneys very often. In that scenario, we were not working with an attorney because it was such a cut and dry situation. But PR people are communicators, right? So we're writers at our core. We're writing statements. We're responding to things. I've had clients get DUIs, and that kind of rains down in the business world too. I've had clients that their children did things. Their children, like, they're semi-adult children, like 18 to 25 years old, got arrested for drugs or got arrested for DUI, thing of that, and then it comes back on them as well. So, PR people are communicators, and it's our job to, like, write statements and respond to make sure that that lines up with our reputation. So, a lot of times when something happens for our client, the first thing I do is call the attorney, and they have an attorney on staff or someone that they, work with on retainer. I write up a statement and I send it to the attorney, and I'm like, here's the situation of what happened. Here's what I would like to say in response. I'm going to put this back on social media or website or whatever I'm going to put it out on. From a legal standpoint, are we okay here? And we kind of go back and forth of they'll make suggestions and I'm like, yeah, but that's not what we want to make sure we say it this way because we want people to know that X or Y. So it's really kind of a collaboration between us and the attorney a lot of times to, like, come up with a clear statement.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I bet you have so many stories. So, I
Oh my
mean,
gosh,
I
yes.
have stories too, like, sometimes I can't talk about.
Right? And then the names have been changed to, protect the not innocent.
Yes, yes.
And even during COVID, we spent so much time communicating, because we represent 15, 20 different businesses, communicating what their office environment was gonna be like. How are they taking appointments? Or are they booking reservations? And now with the world of vaccinations too, having to be very clear on like, what's the policy? Or do you have to show a vaccination card? Do you have to show a negative COVID test to have an appointment here? Or so many different factors. So it's really like changed the game in, we've had to up our communication and think about COVID stuff every time we host an event, every time we put something out on social, anything.
Gosh. Oh, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. So let's just take a quick dip into what legal stuff have you done for your business? So I know you work with lawyers pretty much on a regular basis to help your clients. So what legal protection have you actually put in place for your business?
Oh, definitely. So one of the first things I did when I started the business, because I was young, I was 26. I knew I needed a contract with people. And of course, living in a small town, a lot of the people who wanted to hire me were just like, oh, yeah, I'll pay you this much every month. No big deal. And I quickly learned, like, no, 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 you get everything in writing. It's
Yes.
nothing against them, even if they are a family friend or someone you've known for years, there's gotta be clear expectations, and I think a lot of small business owners get uncomfortable when they have to drop the C word, haha, contract, but that was the best investment I ever made was getting an actual attorney to write a contract for me, just about everything, about when am I invoicing you? What's the term of our contract? When the contract comes out, when do we renew or how do we renew? Do we need to sign another contract? What things are included in my fees and what are not? Just making everything crystal clear and having an attorney write that up was the best investment that I've ever made.
Yes. Oh, I love to hear that. And a lot of people don't, so if you don't mind me asking, if you remember, how much did you pay that attorney?
I wanna say maybe like 2,000 bucks? 1,800, 2,000 bucks?
I love that. Yeah, a lot of people think it's gonna cost them $10,000 to work with an attorney. It's like, no, like, it does cost money, but it's a lot less than what it could cost you down the road if you don't put these protections in place.
Totally. Oh my gosh, yes, and I especially, like, I put a 30-day notice on all of my contracts because we do a lot of our work in advance, like, especially if we're scheduling social media content, we do that 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So, prime example, January 1, I had somebody reach out and they were like, "Hey, we're having to change our budget this year, like, some stuff is changing and we lost a few of our properties. We need to cut off our marketing now." And I was like, "Okay, we've got a 30-day out." And they were like, We can't do a 30-day out." And I was like, "I'm sorry, we've already written all the content for this whole month. So like we basically already done the work. So just like really think about the workflow that you have and making sure that you put something like that, because if I wouldn't have had that, I would have lost, I paid my employees to do all that content curation for a whole month of Facebook and Instagram, come out of pocket to pay those employees, and the client wouldn't have paid us. So that's been super, super crucial.
Yeah, and I'm happy for you that you weren't afraid to be like, "Oh, okay, like, well, I'll just be out this month." No, like, you signed a contract. This is the policy. You still owe me for the next 30 days.
Exactly, and honestly, he was cool with it. Once I told him, I was like, "Hey, I've got this 30-day out on my contract, for this specific reason, like, we've already done 80% of the work." And then once I told him that, I was like, "I hope you understand, I have to pay my team," and once I said that, he was like, "I totally understand, like, no problem."
Mhm.
So, it was definitely, definitely worth it. And you know what I love about my contract the most, and I get compliments on this, is that it's not stupidly long.
Yeah.
Like, it is not even a whole page. I think it's like 5 or 6 sections. It's very clear about billing and invoicing, about expenses, the duration of the contract, how do they cancel the contract, and maybe 1 or 2 other parts. But I mean, it's literally like for someone to read our contract, it is about maybe 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, and it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, usually you think of a contract and you're like, "Oh god, it's gonna be 14 pages and all this fine print," and like No, you don't need a 14 in my opinion, you're the attorney, so you can weigh in on this, but, like, to be clear on things, like, you don't have to have a 26-page contract, you know?
Just reviewed a 40-page contract for a client. I was like, "Oh, this is so, so entirely way too much." Like, not needed, not worth it, but whatever. Like, this is what the other side wants.
Right, and everybody's business is different, so maybe they do need more, like, contractual language than I do, but one thing I d also love is that the attorney that did it for me, like, really made it very palatable. You know, like, I know, like, I'm not an attorney, but when I start reading all this jargon and I don't know what I'm signing, I'm immediately hesitant. So I purposely said, "I want this to be clear. I'm not trying to trick people. I don't want
Yeah,
them to be overwhelmed by this. I want it to be very clear of like, here's when I invoice you, here's when I pay you, here's the duration, and here's how to cancel." Like, let's not make it so cryptic that people are intimidated.
exactly. Yep, yep. I totally get that. Alright, so before we wrap up, I ask everybody the same exact question, and that is to give your number 1 business tip. It doesn't have to be legal related at all, just like if somebody came to you off the street and was like, "Whitney, I heard you're this badass PR woman. Like, what's your number 1 tip for me as a business owner?"
Here we go. You can't do it all. In the world of marketing and PR, I have people that come to me and they're like, I want to be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok. I want to have a website. I want to have a podcast. I want to have a TV show. I want to have a radio show. You cannot do it all. You
Mhm.
cannot do it all. And you don't need to do it all. So
Right.
take a deep breath and really identify who is your target client or customer. Where are they living? If they're only on Instagram, you don't need 36 social media platforms. You need to go where your people are, fish in the right pond,
Mhm.
and go after that and do that really, really well. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying a lot of different things because a lot of marketing and PR honestly is like trying stuff and seeing results and getting data back and then building your next campaign. So I think it's totally fine to try things, but don't sit here and kill yourself and your budget trying to be in all of these places. Go where your people are, knock that out of the park, and that will drive your business.
I love that. I love that. And speaking of podcasts, tell everybody about your podcast. What are they gonna learn over on your podcast?
So it's going to be called Socially Relevant. We are getting ready to launch as we speak, and it's going to be all about marketing and PR, like a little bit of everything. We're going to talk social media, we'll talk PR, we'll talk reputation management, we'll talk about email marketing. But the number one thing I want people to know is this is not going to be some techie podcast. Nobody
Yeah.
wants to talk about, like the nitty-gritty of statistics and numbers, and I want it to be fun and easy to understand. Stuff that you can actually like, easy listening, you're not going back to college. Easy listening for stuff that you can actually like take away real tidbits and do it for your business. So I'm not going to speak in a whole bunch of marketing and PR language. I'm going to speak in language that everybody can get it and be able to like again take it back and like make something happen for your business. So that's really my main goal.
I love it. I love it. Well, tell everybody where they can find you. How can they work with you if they're like, "Oh my god, I need Whitney on my team right now." Yes, tell them where they can find all the things.
Awesome. Okay, so the podcast is going to be anywhere you can listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. If you guys want to reach out to us, we're on not every single social channel. I got to take my own advice. Really, where we live the most, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. We're getting ready to launch TikTok too, just because I
Yes,
really,
on
it's a
TikTok.
lot of fun. But you can find Socially on any of the social media platforms. We actually spell it with an EE. So, like socially, but instead of a Y on the end, EE. So, look us up on there. Or if you just want to reach out to me personally, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. It's the Whitney Lee. So, like THE Whitney Lee. And the ways to work with us. So, there's kind of twofold here. Of course, you can hire the agency. I've got a whole team behind me. And some people love that. It's like outsourcing a whole marketing department in one fell swoop. Like we've got a whole solid team, a designer, social media, photography, websites. We've got all of that under one roof. So you can hire us to be your social or to be your full blown marketing team. But I also have a lot of businesses that come to me and they say, Whitney, I don't have the budget to hire a full blown agency. I've got one or two people here that work in my office that help me with marketing, but they're young or maybe, they're just getting started. And that's really all that I can afford. So I've actually started doing sessions with these business owners and their marketing team or their assistants in their office, where it's like a 90-minute session where I look at everything they've done and make recommendations and basically like train their marketing assistant of like, hey, here's the plan. Now you just got to make it happen. Because what I find is like some of these teeny tiny businesses can only afford like someone straight out of college. These college kids are incredibly useful, but they just don't understand the strategy side of it yet. So they need someone like me that just steps in and says, hey, here's the strategy, here's the plan. And now you're going to take this, and then they go and execute it. So it's actually been really, really awesome. And I just love being able to like still help those small businesses that, again, maybe they're not ready to take the leap and have a full blown agency, but they just need like someone to guide their assistant, you
Yeah.
know?
I love it. Oh my gosh, Whitney, thank you so, so much for this. This has been incredible. I'm so happy for you. Everything about the podcast, like how much your business is booming. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me. And don't worry, guys, of course, everything will be in the show notes. And we'll see you guys next time. Here at Legalpreneur, we're committed to providing a supportive legal community for all business owners. I know how scary the legal stuff can be. If you found this information helpful, I would be so grateful if you could share it with a fellow business owner. And quite frankly, it doesn't cost anything to rate, review, or subscribe to the show. Your support helps me reach more listeners, which allows me to support more business owners in their entrepreneurial journey. Have any questions or comments about the show? Feel free to drop me a line on Instagram. I promise I read all of the messages and comments. And if you want to be a guest on the show or know someone that would make a great guest, simply fill out our application form and a team member will reach out if we think it's a good fit. I'll see you in the next episode.